Good evening, Eleni Roussos with ABC News. Passengers say they've been left traumatised after their Malaysia Airlines flight to Kuala Lumpur had to make an emergency landing in Alice Springs. A series of loud bangs were heard before the plane started shaking violently, with passengers told to brace for an impact landing in the Central Australian desert. Many have refused to board a replacement aircraft.
225 passengers relieved to be on solid ground.
It's a kind of a near-death experience, but at the end of the day, we are alive. That's it.
Scale of 10, 1 to 10, 11.
MH122 set off from Sydney yesterday afternoon, headed for Kuala Lumpur, but as the A330 approached the West Australian coast, one of its engines failed. Loud bangs were heard as the plane shook violently. Passengers watching the flight path noticed it was turning around, yet it was another 15 minutes before the pilot informed them what was happening.
And some thought it was going to come down into the desert, and then, say about another 3/4 of an hour, then he came back on saying he was in a land in Alice Springs. And all well, we did cheer. We did cheer.
The plane landed safely at the Alice Springs airport last night. Then came the challenge of finding accommodation for the passengers in a town like Alice.
It was a bit of a shock to the system, but I think all kudos to the staff and crew who did manage to support the passengers and then handle the situation well.
While spirits were high last night,
But we ain't got time to go to Airs Off Rock, have we?
today was a different story as the trauma and reality of what occurred set in. These passengers wanted to hire a car and drive the 3,000 kilometres back to Sydney rather than board another flight.
Even more terrified and sort of traumatized. And that's the reason why we planned to go back to Sydney by car.
A replacement plane has landed in Alice Springs, but many have refused to board, opting to return home with other airlines.
The only information Malaysia Airlines has provided is that it had to land due to a technical issue, and at no point was passenger safety compromised. As an apology, it's offered those passengers 50% off the next time they choose to fly with Malaysia Airlines, provided it's within the next year, subject to availability and excluding taxes.
With the storm brewing, the replacement plane took off from the Alice Springs airport a bit behind schedule, headed straight for Kuala Lumpur. A long journey ahead tonight for those on board. Claire Campbell, ABC News, Alice Springs.